It's Daybreak. Now let's take a look at what's making the headlines on the papers around the world this morning, beginning with our sister publication, This Day. In bold prints, we have presidential visit indicts Unilag, Vice Chancellor Ogundipe, and the management exonerates Baba Lakin of wrongdoing in Vice Chancellor's removal. And right on top of that, we have the president. He says Buhari's visit to Imo successful, a pleasant experience, and the state government takes a swipe at opposition. And on top of the This Day paper is the OPS saying worsening VAT war leaves business operators confused. You can catch up on this on page 6.
Let's move on to the Punch newspaper now. The bold headline on the front page this morning is 14-month VAT sharing. 5 northern states, 2 southwest, 2 south-south among top beneficiaries. The paper lists the top 10 as Lagos, Kano, Oyo, Rivers, Kaduna. Others there say are Katsina, Delta, Bauchi, Anambra, and Jigawa. Another rider on that both headline says not all southern states can generate enough revenues, and that's coming from Borno State. Meanwhile, Norway wants local governments to collect VAT. It's the striking picture on the front page on the Punch this morning for me. It's the flooded community on the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway after release of water from the Ogun Dam by the Ogun River Basin Development Authority. This was on Sunday. It's captured by a photographer there. You see people trying to get through the flood. But other headlines on the front page of Punch this morning: COVID-19, 7 states stop testing as infections hit 5,773 in 10 days. Lamido meets Obasanjo, says nobody is safe. And strike continues as NARD insists after meeting NMA, that's Nigerian Medical Association.
Now let's flip over to the Guardian newspaper, and the screaming headline there is 100 days after Twitter ban, uncertainty trails federal government's plan. And another headline, worry over mass abductions as schools resume today. And finally, Nigeria's federal government expends 364 billion naira on petrol transportation.
All right, now we move on to international papers, and the Daily Mirror, a huge bold headline here. Cancer test revolution. Blood check can spot 50 types early. Now, the NHS says a simple blood test that can detect more than 50 cancers before symptoms appear is being trailed. It says it's a game changer to save thousands.
Moving on to the Times, and the headline states this morning, Huawei infiltrates Cambridge. Call for inquiry as Chinese tech giants close ties to research center are exposed.
I've got the Daily Telegraph here, and instant icon. Emma holds all the aces, and Johnson to rip up COVID restrictions. And finally, Javid says no new tax increases in this parliament after grassroots backlash.
And for our press review, Emmanuel Bello joins us now in our offsite studio. Emmanuel, I want to start with the headline on the This Day newspaper, speaking on the president's visit to Imo State. Now, the presidency is countering a statement that was credited to the president. I will read that statement here. The president says to Governor Hope Uzodinma that I'll be careful with your future invitations. Now, the presidency is making it clear that that visit was indeed successful and a pleasant experience. What's your thoughts?
Well, it's an unfortunate situation the presidency finds himself, especially now that it has to, clear what looks like a joke, that the president was just trying to throw at the end of a very beautiful speech. But then, of course, the visit itself is under review. A whole lot of people are looking at it. Was it very successful? Remember that he came in practically into a ghost town with the sit-at-home order in place and all of that. So there are people who say that, of course, the visit has had its gains and everything. Of course, a lot of side talks, side stories came out of it, including the president's wardrobe malfunction and all of that. That came out of it, but all these are asides. And of course, this particular one, the president, trying to be very jocular about in his speech, but the opposition picked on it immediately and ran to town with it and say, well, this is a sign that the president didn't really enjoy his trip. He didn't get the kind of trip or the kind of presidential treatment he was expecting. And they jumped on it. And it's a good thing that today, this day is reporting that, no, the presidency is, trying to do some damage control with that and say, look, the president had a good outing. It was good for him. The optics were fantastic. The president in a place like that, at the time that people think that the president can't, make such a trip. So, but that was last week. Of course, it's still reverberating. It's not out of the news yet, the visit. Imo State is also trying to cash in on it. The governor saying that, look, it was a great visit, it was successful too, and that the opposition was just trying to be, belly aching over the visit because they had said before that they don't think the president can make it. A lot of people were shocked that the president could actually just, go to Imo State. Many people weren't expecting that. But the president also probably just trying to be funny, say that, look, next time I'll be very careful with your visit.
Indeed,
it's a pointed comment. It's not an easy comment.
Indeed, it was a bold move by President Muhammad Buhari at a time where you have insecurity in that part of the country. But let's go to the punch, Emmanuel, if you will. VAT. The VAT controversy isn't going anywhere. And the rider there that interests me is NOLGE, which is the Association of Local Government Employees, wanting local government to collect VAT. Did you see that coming? It's a fair ask, isn't it? If the states are demanding VAT collection from the federal government, it only makes sense that the local government, the third tier of government, will also do the same.
Well, yeah, it's a fair demand by the local government, and a lot of people have been saying that if we're going to talk about the revolution we are talking about in changing the country and ensuring that developments and all that, you have to address the issue of local governments. Right now, if you go to the states, especially to the local government, in fact, it's just like a joke. Most of the so-called chairmen of local governments, that's what they are called, the leaders of the local council, don't really do anything. They're actually salary earners who don't actually have any kind of control. And the development or the lack of development in this over 700 of these local governments actually spell the doom or even the prosperity for a nation, because whatever we are having in the country is a sum total of what is happening at the local government level. So those making a good case for the local government are actually doing the right thing, because if you can strengthen the local government and make them viable, and they are VAT collecting, and they can actually execute the kind of projects they want to collect, you'll be actually touching on the development aspect of the country, because it is a sum total of what's happening in the local government. The crisis we're having now for development is because of the crisis at the level of the local government, and a whole lot of cases have been made for them. Some have talked about them actually getting direct funding from the central purse. Others have said that, and this one now that they are trying to go at, which is to ensure that they are also a VAT collecting entity, makes a lot of sense, because for now what you have in many states is what they call joint accounts, a situation where the local governments are giving stipends maybe just to pay off salaries and all of that, and makes them really, really, really ineffective. So what you see is that a whole lot of the local government chairmen don't even stay in their local governments. They actually run to the state capitals and just stay there, because they don't just feel that they have anything to do. In some states, are trying with the local government administration, but in most of the states, the local government is practically a joke at the mercy of the state government. Their funding, everything is also centralized in such a way that nothing gets down to the local government. And you have people moving from the local government to the state capitals and leaving those places almost dry up. And that is part of the problem. You have 700 of them. They're the sum total of what you have as a country or as a state. So yes, if you make them VAT collecting, you make them more effective, it will be good for the country.
Okay, Manuel. Now, while the state, the tiers of government engage in that three-way tug of war for value-added taxes, the federal government is still battling with the social media giant Twitter. It's been 100 days and the Twitter ban is still on. The Guardian says uncertainty trails the federal government's plan. How many more lives and how much more revenue is the government willing to sacrifice to make its point?
Yeah, but okay, let me start with a word for the Guardian newspaper because it's got a different kind of, outlook this morning. Touching on stories that you don't find anywhere. This they also got an exclusive story with the university report that has not been made public yet. But Guardian, I think, takes the cake this morning because if you look at it, it had that Twitter story. Most newspapers don't have that story today. And then resumptions of school is today, and then it has that story. It's like Guardian newspaper to be worried about what almost every other person is worried about, especially their second story, which is, the worry about abductions and school and all of that. Twitter, of course, yes, Twitter affects the life of so many people. Too many people are on that platform. And yes, there are a lot of people are worried. And it's a good thing that they are benchmarking it. They are saying this is 100 days after the June ban. And they have actually stayed on the story and they've counted. And they say it's 100 days after the Twitter ban is still. So, and the story is all about the back and forth between the giants, the Twitter, and then, of course, the federal government. And even the promises that the federal government has been making that, look, we're going to lift the ban and all that. And right then on the cover, they were also able to say, this is how much has been lost so far. It's a beautiful story to look at even the finances, to look at the economies, to look at the money or the finances, and not just touching the lives of people as a social media outlet, but the fact that it's also big business. And this is how much we're losing. I think it's an appeal by both sides to say, look, especially the Twitter itself, to say, look, you are losing this money. But then the federal government is making a case and say, we have these demands. We're saying that you have to show more responsibility in the way you are reporting us, because that's what led us to this position, to this place in the first place. The situation of the federal government saying Twitter is not representing us very well, and Twitter saying that, well, look, we do our job and we do it very well. But Twitter is also bleeding. It's not just the country that is losing. So both sides, it's almost a war of attrition. A situation where the federal government is bleeding, losing money day by day, and of course Twitter also losing money on the other side. But the other second story is very interesting. I think most parents will pick on this paper today and look at it, because everyone worry about their kids. Schools have resumed. What are the plans there to safeguard schools, especially now that the bandits have made an industry out of picking school children and taking them away and demanding for ransom. So I think those are two very strong stories that will make, maybe if you want to buy newspapers, these are not stories you find on the social media every day. Very good stories, and parents or Nigerians will want to pick on these papers and read, especially school, the PTA parents thinking about resumption today and what happens to their ward, especially schools that you find in the fringes of the country, where you don't think there's a lot of security there. That story goes straight to the heart of the matter.
Right. A lot of interesting and important stories there, and a few front pages from the international stories. Nkechi, you do have one?
Yes, there's one. If you can comment quickly on the cancer test revolution in the UK, that the NHS has now said that the blood check can spot 50 types. Emmanuel.
Yeah, and it's a good thing they're calling it a cancer test revolution. I mean, this is revolutionary. Until now, I think the commonest thing we say about cancer is that no one knows the cause, no one knows the cure. So you don't know what is causing it, you don't know how to cure it. But now with this, and they're saying that, look, they can check on, the blood test can actually help them to locate 50 types of cancer. So early detection is going to help a lot in saving lives. And so, yeah, it's a good, I like the caption. It says it's a revolution. I think it's big story, and a lot of medical experts will be weighing on this to see how they go about it. It's going to be something that, will save life and help in the longevity, because cancer has been a huge problem out there for so many people. But of course, the Cambridge story too, that was carried by one of the papers, saying that the Chinese company has actually infiltrated Cambridge. It's also a story when you look at the fact that.
Yeah. Emmanuel, thank you so much. That's our press review. Daybreak returns in a moment. Stay with us.